Welcome, dear listener. As the world quiets around you and your thoughts begin to soften, allow your mind to drift through the ancient sands of time to a land of sacred rivers, chanting sages, and palaces carved with purpose. Tonight, we embark on a gentle journey through one of humanity's oldest and most profound epics, the Mahabharata. This is not merely a story, it is a vast ocean of wisdom, philosophy, poetry, and timeless questions about duty, love, justice, and the eternal conflict between right and wrong. It is a story woven with gods and mortals, sages and warriors, kings and queens, a tapestry so immense that it has shaped the spiritual and cultural fabric of India for over 2,000 years. The Mahabharata is believed to have been composed between 400 BCE and 400 CE, though its roots stretch far deeper into oral traditions, passed lovingly from one generation to the next by storytellers under banyan trees and around sacred fires. With over 100,000 verses, it is the longest epic poem in the world, longer than the Iliad and the Odyssey combined. But tonight, dear listener, we won't rush. There is no hurry here. As the stars glow gently above, we'll wander softly through the forests of ancient India, explore the marble halls of royal courts, and listen to the quiet teachings whispered by sages in groves and temples. At its core, the Mahabharata is a tale of a great cataclysmic conflict between two royal families, the Kauravas and the Pandavas. But to call it merely a war story would be to miss its deepest treasures. It is equally a spiritual guide, a philosophical inquiry, and a profound meditation on the nature of human life. We begin not with battle cries, but with origins, with stories of divine births, of powerful lineages, and of the world before the war. For like the gentle ripple before the storm, the Mahabharata teaches us that great events are born of many small causes, layered, intertwined, and often unseen. In its pages, we will meet Bhishma, the wise and noble grandsire, who takes a lifelong vow of celibacy to protect his kingdom. We will encounter Kunti, the mother of the Pandavas, whose prayers to the gods bring forth sons of divine heritage. We will follow the fates of Yudhishthira, the just, Bhima, the mighty, Arjuna, the warrior prince, and the twins, Nakula and Sahadeva, whose loyalty binds their family together. And standing against them, the Kauravas led by the proud and passionate Duryodhana will challenge their right to rule, leading to a struggle that will culminate in the legendary battle of Kurukshetra. We will walk side by side with Krishna, the charioteer and divine incarnation, who delivers the sacred teachings of the Bhagavad Gita in the stillness before the clash of arms. His words, soft yet eternal, will echo through our journey as a compass pointing toward Dharma's true path. But the Mahabharata is not only a story of princes and warriors. It speaks of the complexities of human emotion, jealousy, forgiveness, grief, and redemption. It reminds us that choices matter, that intentions shape destinies, and that wisdom often lies in listening, not speaking. Each chapter of our journey will open a new doorway into palaces glittering with gold, into forests humming with the songs of birds, into moments of silent prayer under moonlit skies. As we drift through the chapters of this grand epic, we will see not only the lives of ancient heroes, but reflections of ourselves, our fears, our dreams, our questions. You need not stay awake to follow it all. Let the sound of these words carry you gently, like a river flowing through memory and myth. Whether you remember every name or forget each one in sleep, the spirit of the Mahabharata will linger with you calm, wise, and ever watchful. So breathe deeply now. Let the rhythm of this story become your lullaby. Close your eyes and let us begin our voyage, to a time long before ours, to a world shaped by dharma, karma, and the eternal play of fate. This is the Mahabharata. As the quiet mist of early dawn settles over the fertile plains of ancient India, We travel now to the roots of a royal house, the lineage from which our tale will bloom. This is the house of the moon, or the Chandravamsha, a noble line of kings descending from the moon god, Chandra, through his son Buddha, and onward to the great king Bharatathe, very figure for whom India, Bharat, is named. The story begins with King Shantanu, a wise and just ruler of the Kuru dynasty, who reigns over the kingdom of Hastinapura land, nestled along the sacred Ganges, with wide courtyards, blooming gardens, and elephant-lined avenues. He is beloved by his people and honored by the sages. One day, while walking along the river, Shantanu sees a woman of extraordinary beauty standing by the water. She is Ganga, goddess of the river herself, incarnated in human form. Without revealing her divine identity, she agrees to marry him, but only on one condition, that he must never question her actions, no matter what they may be. Shantanu, overwhelmed by love, agrees. They live in quiet happiness, and soon a child is born. But to Shantanu's horror, Ganga takes the child and casts it into the river. She does this again and again, with 7 of their children. Though his heart breaks, Shantanu keeps his promise and says nothing. When the 8th child is born, he cannot remain silent. He pleads with her to stop. Ganga, revealing her true identity, tells him that these children were once celestial beings, Vasis, who were cursed to be born as mortals. By drowning them, she has released them from their earthly bonds. But this 8th child must live out his full mortal destiny. Ganga departs with the child, promising to raise him in the heavens. He will be named Bhishma. Years pass, and Shantanu is once again without a queen. One day he meets Satyavati, a fisherwoman of calm grace and quiet wisdom. He wishes to marry her, but her father refuses unless her children inherit the throne. Shantanu is heartbroken, for he cannot deny Bhishma's right as heir. But when Bhishma hears of this, he makes a vow that will echo throughout the Mahabharata. He renounces all claim to the throne and promises never to marry, ensuring that Satyavati's sons will rule. So powerful is this vow that the gods themselves shower flowers from the sky. From that day, he is no longer Devavrata. He becomes Bhishmada, one of terrible resolve. Satyavati bears 2 sons, Chitrangada and Vichitravirya. But tragedy strikes. Chitrangada dies in battle, and Vichitravirya dies young, without heirs. The kingdom faces a crisis. Satyavati, in desperation, turns to a secret she has long held. Before her marriage to Shantanu, she bore a son with the sage Parashara. This son, Vyasa, is a powerful rishi and the very composer of the Mahabharata itself. Vyasa agrees to help preserve the lineage. He performs a sacred practice known as niyoga, in which a man may father children with a widow for the sake of the family line. From this act are born 3 sons: Dhritarashtra, born blind; Pandu, pale of skin but strong in will; and Vidura, wise and righteous, though denied royal status because his mother was a servant. Dhritarashtra, due to his blindness, is passed over for the throne, and Pandu becomes king. Pandu marries Kunti and Madri, while Dhritarashtra weds Gandhari, a princess who, upon learning her husband is blind, chooses to blindfold herself for life, a gesture of devotion and solidarity. The royal house flourishes, for a time. Pandu, seeking peace, retreats into the forest with his wives. There, under the dappled light of the trees, Kunti reveals a secret gift bestowed by a grateful sage in her youth. She can call upon any god to bear a child. She invokes the gods, and from her prayers are born 3 sons: Yudhishthira, son of Dharma, the god of righteousness; Bhima, son of Vayu, the wind god; Arjuna, son of Indra. The king of gods, Madri, too, is granted use of the mantra, and bears twin sons by the Ashvin, twins Nakula and Sahadeva. These 5 children are the Pandavas princes of divine heritage, each reflecting the essence of the god who fathered them. Yet joy is short-lived. One day, Pandu, overcome by desire, forgets a terrible curse placed upon him that if he ever touched his wives in passion, he would die. In a moment of weakness, he does, and falls dead in the forest. Madri, consumed by grief, joins him on the funeral pyre. Kunti returns to Hastinapura with the 5 sons. Meanwhile, Dhritarashtra and Gandhari have borne 100 sons, through a miraculous and unusual birth involving clay vessels and divine intervention. The eldest of these sons is Duryodhana, ambitious, proud, and unyielding. From their earliest years, the Kauravas and Pandavas grow up together, trained in the arts of war and the wisdom of the scriptures under the tutelage of Kripa, Drona, and Bhishma. But jealousy simmers beneath the surface, especially in Duryodhana, who senses the Pandavas' rising glory. He especially envies Bhima, whose strength is unmatched. Several times he tries to kill Himants by poisoning him and throwing him into the river, and later by luring him into a trap with deadly serpents. Yet each time, Bhima survives, growing stronger. To contain this rising conflict, Dhritarashtra sends the boys to live in the forest town of Varnavata, supposedly as a reward. But there, Duryodhana lays a deadly Trapa palace built of flammable lac, designed to burn the Pandavas alive. Forewarned by their uncle Vidura, the Pandavas escape through a hidden tunnel and disappear into the wilderness, presumed dead. In the forest, they live in disguise, moving from village to village, protected by their mother Kunti and the guidance of the eldest, Yudhishthira. It is during this time that Arjuna wins the hand of Draupadi, princess of Panchala, in a dramatic archery contest. She becomes the shared wife of all 5 brothers, a union ordained by destiny and accepted with grace. Her strength, wisdom, and unwavering resolve will later become central to the tale. The Pandavas return to Hastinapura, where tensions continue to rise. A political compromise is made. The kingdom is divided. The Kauravas retain Hastinapura, while the Pandavas are given a wild, barren land called Khandavaprastha. With determination, they transform it into a shining capital, Indraprastha, city of glittering spires, broad avenues, and peaceful temples. The land flourishes, the people prosper, but peace, as ever in the Mahabharata, is a fragile thing. As we drift now from this chapter, let us reflect on the threads we've gathered of vows and destinies, of divine births and dangerous rivalries. The seeds of future conflict lie quietly beneath the soil of these early tales, waiting to bloom into something vast and irreversible. Breathe gently now, as we prepare to enter the next stage of this great epic, the game of dice, the exile, and the march toward fate. The winds across Indraprastha carry whispers of destiny, though the palace walls still echo with laughter, feasts, and music. The Pandavas reign in peace, their court a place of learning, wealth, and justice. Yet shadows gather quietly at the edge of splendor, for the Mahabharata is not only a tale of triumph, it is a meditation on how fragile peace can be and how quickly it may unravel. Duryodhana, now a prince in Hastinapura, seethes with envy as stories reach him of Indraprastha's beauty and prosperity. The court of the Pandavas shines with wisdom and power. Yudhishthira is beloved. Arjuna is the unrivaled archer. Bhima is mighty beyond compare. Even Nakula and Sahadeva, the youngest, win admiration with their grace and charm. To celebrate their success, Yudhishthira performs the Rajasuya sacrifice, a grand Vedic ceremony that proclaims him emperor ruler over all kings. The greatest rulers of India attend, bringing gifts and tribute. Even Krishna, the prince of Dwaraka and divine avatar of Vishnu, stands by his side, offering counsel. During the ceremony, a ritual of honor is performed, the Agra Pujain, which the most respected guest receives the first offerings. Yudhishthira chooses Krishna. But this honor stings Duryodhana and his allies. especially Shishupala, who insults Krishna openly. Krishna, long patient, finally strikes him down with his discus, the Sudarshana chakra, ending Shishupala's many sins. The ceremony ends in splendor, but Duryodhana's bitterness only grows. Soon after, he visits Indraprastha and is astounded by its wealth. The palace, designed by the architect Maya, contains illusions and wonders. Duryodhana stumbles into a reflecting pool, mistaking it for solid floor, and slips into the water. Draupadi, watching from a balcony, laughs and calls out, "The blind son of a blind king," a remark that wounds his pride. That moment, light and fleeting, becomes a wound that festers. Humiliated, Duryodhana returns to Hastinapura, burning with one goal, the destruction of the Pandavas. He seeks the advice of his cunning uncle Shakuni, the brother of his mother Gandhari. Shakuni, whose every move is wrapped in subtle malice, proposes a plan that does not require armies or swords. He suggests a game of dice. Dice, in ancient India, are not mere games. They are bound to fate and chant symbols of risk, destiny, and karma. Yet in Shakuni's hands, they become tools of deception. Duryodhana convinces his father, the blind king Dhritarashtra, to invite Yudhishthira to Hastinapura for a friendly game. Bound by honor and royal duty, Yudhishthira agrees, though the very stones of the palace seem to warn him otherwise. What follows is one of the most painful episodes in the epic. Yudhishthira sits at the board. Across from him is Shakuni, who throws the dice on Duryodhana's behalf. The dice, charmed or cursed, never fail him. Yudhishthira loses rapidly, first his jewels, then his wealth, then his horses and elephants. Still, he continues. He wagers his kingdom, and loses. He wagers his brothers, and loses. In desperation, he wagers himself, and loses. And finally, in a moment of anguish, he wagers Draupadi, the empress of Indraprastha. When he loses again, a dreadful silence falls. Duryodhana, now drunk with triumph, sends his brother Dushasana to drag Draupadi into the court. She resists, but is pulled by her hair, insulted before the elders, the sages, and the very throne of Hastinapura. Then comes the infamous moment. Duryodhana commands that her robes be removed, that she be publicly humiliated. The court freezes. Bhishma, Vidura, even the king, remain silent. None rise to stop this horror. But Draupadi, eyes blazing with dignity, raises a prayer to Krishna, and by his grace, her garments become endless. As Dushasana pulls and pulls, cloth after cloth unfurls, covering her modesty like a river of silk. Exhausted, he collapses, defeated by divine will. The court is shamed. In the wake of this act, Draupadi swears vengeance not for herself alone, but for the injustice witnessed by all. She vows that Dushasana's blood will one day wash her hair. The elders attempt to intervene. Dhritarashtra, frightened by omens and the growing anger of the Pandavas, grants Draupadi a boon. She asks for her husband's freedom. Then, with her second boon, she restores their lost kingdom. But Duryodhana demands another game. Again, Yudhishthira agrees. Again, he loses. This time, the price is exile. 13 years, 12 in the forest, and 1 in hiding. If they are discovered in that final year, the exile repeats. So the Pandavas, noble and powerful, now walk barefoot into the forest, leaving behind palaces and silk for hermits' robes and wooden huts. Draupadi walks with them, silent but proud, her head held high. In the forest, they encounter sages and spirits, kings and gods. Each brother learns deeper truths. Bhima meets Hanuman, the monkey god, and his elder brother. Arjuna travels to the heavens and receives divine weapons from the gods. Yudhishthira debates dharma with wise rishis. Draupadi, ever firm, continues to demand justice. Their time in exile is one of growth, reflection, and quiet strength. They are not defeated, they are being tempered. One story from this time lingers in the heart. a sage named Markandeya tells the story of Nala and Damayanti, lovers torn apart by fate and reunited by devotion. Yudhishthira listens, and the tale reminds him that even in the face of despair, love and righteousness will find a way. As the years pass, the brothers wander far through jungles, mountain caves, and sacred rivers. They survive storms, rakshasas, and temptations, and always they hold fast to one another. Finally, the 13th year arrives. They disguise themselves and enter the court of King Virata, each taking on a humble role. Yudhishthira becomes a dice-playing courtier, Bhima a cook, Arjuna a dance teacher disguised as a eunuch, and the twins as stable masters. Draupadi becomes a maid to the queen. Despite challenges, they remain undetected until the final days. Duryodhana, suspecting their location, attacks Virata's kingdom. Arjuna, shedding his disguise, defeats the invading army and reveals himself. The exile is over, the vow fulfilled. The Pandavas now return, ready to reclaim what was promised. They send Krishna as a messenger of peace. He pleads with the Kauravas to return Indraprastha or offer even 5 small villages. But Duryodhana refuses. He will not yield even a needlepoint of land. The moment has arrived. The wheel of fate has turned. As we drift now to the next chapter, the sky darkens with the approach of war. But remember, this is no ordinary war. It is the battlefield where gods and mortals meet, where Dharma and Adharma stand face to face. And it is here that the deepest teachings of the Mahabharata will unfold. So let your breath slow. The winds of Kurukshetra stir gently in the distance. Sleep, if you wish. The story will carry you onward. The dawn over Kurukshetra is like none other. The sun rises through a veil of dust, and the earth trembles with the weight of chariots, the clang of armor, and the hushed prayers of those who know what is to come. On this sacred plain, where once sages meditated in peace, now stand hundreds of thousands of warriors, assembled from every corner of Bharatavarsha. The battle is not a simple clash of armies. It is the collapse of a family, the end of an age, and the testing ground of Dharma-right conduct. Cousin stands against cousin, elders against disciples, brothers, friends, and teachers, all drawn into a storm foretold by omens and long-silenced grievances. On one side, the Pandavas, Arjuna, Bhima, Yudhishthira, Nakula, and Sahadeva, with Krishna as their charioteer. On the other, the Kauravas, led by Duryodhana, with Bhishma, Drona, Karna, and Shakuni among their mightiest warriors. The armies assemble for what will be 18 days of battle. But before the first conch is blown, Arjuna asks Krishna to drive him between the lines. As he surveys the field, Arjuna sees not enemies, but kinuncles, grandfathers, teachers, and cousins. His bow slips from his hands. He turns to Krishna and says, "How can I kill those whom I love? What victory is worth this sorrow?" Then, in the stillness before the storm, Krishna speaks. His voice is calm, but firm. What follows is the Bhagavad Gita dialogue not of war, but of wisdom. Krishna teaches that the soul is eternal, that one must act without attachment to the fruits of action, and that true dharma lies in fulfilling one's duty with compassion and clarity. He says, "You grieve for those who should not be grieved. The wise do not mourn the living or the dead. Arise, Arjuna, with a heart free of fear." With his doubt eased, Arjuna lifts his bow, the Gandhava, and the battle begins. The first day is led by Bhishma, the grandsire, now commander of the Kaurava forces. He fights with unmatched skill, reluctant but bound by loyalty to Hastinapura. He slays hundreds, and the Pandavas suffer great losses. For 10 days Bhishma leads the battle, invincible, for he cannot die unless he chooses the time of his death. On the 10th day, a plan is formed. Knowing Bhishma will not fight a woman, Shikandi born a woman but living as a manas placed before him in battle, Arjuna shoots arrows through Shikandi's shield, striking down the great Bhishma. As he falls, Bhishma does not die. Instead, he lies on a bed of arrows, awaiting an auspicious time to release his spirit. There, he continues to advise both sides, offering wisdom even as he suffers. With Bhishma down, Drona becomes commander. The teacher of both the Pandavas and Kauravas, Drona is torn. Yet he fights for Duryodhana, bound by gratitude and loyalty. Under Drona's leadership, the Kauravas gain the upper hand. The battlefield becomes a sea of chaos. Warriors fall like leaves. On the 13th day, Drona forms a deadly formation called the Chakravyuha, spiraling maze of soldiers that only a few know how to break. Abhimanyu, Arjuna's young son, enters the formation, fearless and brilliant. But he does not know how to exit. Surrounded and outnumbered, he is struck down brutally against the code of war. The Pandavas are devastated. Arjuna swears vengeance, and on the 14th day he cuts a path through the Kaurava army, slaying countless warriors, his eyes burning with grief. At sunset, Krishna uses his divine power to momentarily halt the setting sun, giving Arjuna time to kill Jayadratha, who had blocked the rescue of Abhimanyu. As the sun truly sets, the field is littered with grief. On the 15th day, Drona hears a rumor that his son Ashwatthama has been killed. The rumor is false, but Yudhishthira confirms it, knowing that only this lie can break Drona's will. Drona lays down his weapons, and Drishtadyumna, Draupadi's brother, strikes him down. Now Karna, long held back by Bhishma, takes command. The son of Kunti, though neither she nor the Pandavas publicly acknowledge him yet, Karna is a warrior of unmatched valor, loyal to Duryodhana to the very end. Karna and Arjuna face each other on the 17th day in a duel destined by fate. The battle is fierce, each blow echoing with years of rivalry, but as Karna's chariot wheel sinks into the earth, he pauses to fix it. Bound by the rules of war, he asks Arjuna to wait. Krishna urges Arjuna to strike. Arjuna shoots, and Karna falls noble, tragic, and betrayed by fate. Only later will Yudhishthira and Arjuna learn that Karna was their elder brother, born of Kunti before her marriage. The grief is immense. On the 18th day, the war ends with Bhima killing Duryodhana in a final duel. Though victorious, the Pandavas are hollowed by sorrow. So many have died friends, family, mentors. But the battle is not yet over. In the dead of night, Ashwatthama, son of Drona, enters the Pandava camp and slays their children in their sleep. It is a final act of vengeance, steeped in rage and desperation. The Pandavas return to the battlefield not as victors, but as survivors. Bhishma, still lying on his bed of arrows, finally releases his spirit at the moment of Uttarayana, when the sun begins its journey north. He imparts teachings of kingship, ethics, and dharma to Yudhishthira, wisdom that echoes beyond death. Yudhishthira is crowned king, but his heart is heavy. He wishes to renounce the throne and retreat to the forest. It is Krishna who consoles him, reminding him that dharma is not always clear and that justice must be tempered with compassion. As the dust settles on Kurukshetra, the world shifts. An age has ended. As we pause here, breathe gently. The battlefield may be quiet now, but the teachings remain echoes of choice, consequence, and eternal truths whispered in the silence that follows war. Let sleep carry you now, if it hasn't already. We will soon walk with sages, gods, and kings again. The dawn over Kurukshetra is like none other. The sun rises through a veil of dust, and the earth trembles with the weight of chariots, the clang of armor, and the hushed prayers of those who know what is to come. On this sacred plain, where once sages meditated in peace, now stand hundreds of thousands of warriors, assembled from every corner of Bharatavarsha. The battle is not a simple clash of armies. It is the collapse of a family, the end of an age, and the testing ground of Dharma-right conduct. Cousin stands against cousin, elders against disciples, brothers, friends, and teachers, all drawn into a storm foretold by omens and long-silenced grievances. On one side, the Pandavas, Arjuna, Bhima, Yudhishthira, Nakula, and Sahadeva, with Krishna as their charioteer. On the other, the Kauravas, led by Duryodhana, with Bhishma, Drona, Karna, and Shakuni among their mightiest warriors. The armies assemble for what will be 18 days of battle. But before the first conch is blown, Arjuna asks Krishna to drive him between the lines. As he surveys the field, Arjuna sees not enemies, but kinuncles, grandfathers, teachers, and cousins. His bow slips from his hands. He turns to Krishna and says, "How can I kill those whom I love? What victory is worth this sorrow?" Then, in the stillness before the storm, Krishna speaks. His voice is calm, but firm. What follows is the Bhagavad Gita dialogue not of war, but of wisdom. Krishna teaches that the soul is eternal, that one must act without attachment to the fruits of action, and that true dharma lies in fulfilling one's duty with compassion and clarity. He says, "You grieve for those who should not be grieved. The wise do not mourn the living or the dead. Arise, Arjuna, with a heart free of fear." With his doubt eased, Arjuna lifts his bow, the Gandhava, and the battle begins. The first day is led by Bhishma, the grandsire, now commander of the Kaurava forces. He fights with unmatched skill, reluctant but bound by loyalty to Hastinapura. He slays hundreds, and the Pandavas suffer great losses. For 10 days Bhishma leads the battle, invincible, for he cannot die unless he chooses the time of his death. On the 10th day, a plan is formed. Knowing Bhishma will not fight a woman, Shikandi born a woman but living as a manas placed before him in battle, Arjuna shoots arrows through Shikandi's shield, striking down the great Bhishma. As he falls, Bhishma does not die. Instead, he lies on a bed of arrows, awaiting an auspicious time to release his spirit. There, he continues to advise both sides, offering wisdom even as he suffers. With Bhishma down, Drona becomes commander. The teacher of both the Pandavas and Kauravas, Drona is torn. Yet he fights for Duryodhana, bound by gratitude and loyalty. Under Drona's leadership, the Kauravas gain the upper hand. The battlefield becomes a sea of chaos. Warriors fall like leaves. On the 13th day, Drona forms a deadly formation called the Chakravyuha, spiraling maze of soldiers that only a few know how to break. Abhimanyu, Arjuna's young son, enters the formation, fearless and brilliant. But he does not know how to exit. Surrounded and outnumbered, he is struck down brutally against the code of war. The Pandavas are devastated. Arjuna swears vengeance, and on the 14th day he cuts a path through the Kaurava army, slaying countless warriors, his eyes burning with grief. At sunset, Krishna uses his divine power to momentarily halt the setting sun, giving Arjuna time to kill Jayadratha, who had blocked the rescue of Abhimanyu. As the sun truly sets, the field is littered with grief. On the 15th day, Drona hears a rumor that his son Ashwatthama has been killed. The rumor is false, but Yudhishthira confirms it, knowing that only this lie can break Drona's will. Drona lays down his weapons, and Drishtadyumna, Draupadi's brother, strikes him down. Now Karna, long held back by Bhishma, takes command. The son of Kunti, though neither she nor the Pandavas publicly acknowledge him yet, Karna is a warrior of unmatched valor, loyal to Duryodhana to the very end. Karna and Arjuna face each other on the 17th day in a duel destined by fate. The battle is fierce, each blow echoing with years of rivalry, but as Karna's chariot wheel sinks into the earth, he pauses to fix it. Bound by the rules of war, he asks Arjuna to wait. Krishna urges Arjuna to strike. Arjuna shoots, and Karna falls noble, tragic, and betrayed by fate. Only later will Yudhishthira and Arjuna learn that Karna was their elder brother, born of Kunti before her marriage. The grief is immense. On the 18th day, the war ends with Bhima killing Duryodhana in a final duel. Though victorious, the Pandavas are hollowed by sorrow. So many have died friends, family, mentors. But the battle is not yet over. In the dead of night, Ashwathama, son of Drona, enters the Pandava camp and slays their children in their sleep. It is a final act of vengeance, steeped in rage and desperation. The Pandavas return to the battlefield not as victors, but as survivors. Bhishma, still lying on his bed of arrows, finally releases his spirit at the moment of Uttarayana, when the sun begins its journey north. He imparts teachings of kingship, ethics, and dharma to Yudhishthira wisdom that echoes beyond death. Yudhishthira is crowned king, but his heart is heavy. He wishes to renounce the throne and retreat to the forest. It is Krishna who consoles him, reminding him that dharma is not always clear and that justice must be tempered with compassion. As the dust settles on Kurukshetra, the world shifts. An age has ended. As we pause here, breathe gently. The battlefield may be quiet now, but the teachings remain echoes of choice, consequence, and eternal truths whispered in the silence that follows war. Let sleep carry you now, if it hasn't already. We will soon walk with sages, gods, and kings again. Now that the dust of battle has settled and the heroes have laid down their arms, what remains is not just a tale of kings and warriors, but a map of the soul. The Mahabharata was never only a history of war. It is a mirror held up to humanity, reflecting our choices, our dilemmas, and our longing for meaning in a world of impermanence. This chapter is dedicated to the deeper truths embedded in the story, the timeless spiritual teachings that have drawn readers, seekers, and philosophers to the Mahabharata for over 2,000 years. Let us begin with the idea that pulses through every verse: Dharma. Dharma is not easily defined. It is duty, righteousness, truth, cosmic order, and personal responsibility all at once. In the Mahabharata, characters are not judged as simply good or evil. Rather, they are faced with competing dharmas: loyalty versus justice, family versus truth, compassion versus responsibility. Think of Arjuna on the battlefield. He is a warrior but also a brother, a student, and a man with a conscience. When he sees his family on the opposing side, he is overcome with sorrow. He lays down his bow and says, "I will not fight." He does not fear death. He fears violating dharma. It is in this moment that Krishna, his charioteer and guide, speaks the words of the Bhagavad Gita, Song of God. This sacred text, nestled within the Mahabharata's heart, is a conversation between the divine and the human, the eternal and the uncertain. Krishna tells Arjuna, "You have a right to your actions, but never to the fruits. Do your duty without attachment to outcome." This is the essence of Karma Yoga, the path of selfless action. Work must be done, not for reward, but as an offering, free of ego and expectation. Krishna also speaks of Jnana Yoga, the path of knowledge, and Bhakti Yoga, the path of devotion. He reveals his divine form, showing Arjuna the vast cosmic dance of creation and destruction, time and eternity. He reminds him that the soul is immortal. As one discards worn-out garments, the soul discards bodies. It is unborn, eternal, unchanging. With these words, the battlefield becomes a metaphor. Kurukshetra is not only a place, it is the field of the mind, the field of life, where every one of us must fight our inner wars between fear and courage, confusion and clarity. And Krishna? He is the voice within, the whisper of the divine in our moments of deepest doubt. Throughout the Mahabharata, Dharma bends and shifts. Yudhishthira is known as the son of Dharma itself. Yet even he lies once on the battlefield to defeat Drona. His torment after this act shows that even the righteous are tested. The lesson is not that one should never stumble, but that one must strive to rise again and seek the higher path with sincerity. And what of Karna, who knows he is fighting for a side that is unjust, but does so out of loyalty and gratitude? What of Bhishma, who serves the throne even when it leads to disaster? What of Draupadi, who is humiliated in the court, yet rises with grace and courage, invoking divine justice? Their stories show us that Dharma is not fixed, it is lived, questioned, and discovered in each moment. There are no easy answers, only the search for truth. The Mahabharata also teaches us about karma, the law of cause and effect, not as punishment or reward, but as a deep interconnectedness. Every action has ripples. Dhritarashtra's blindness is not just physical, it is moral. His refusal to rein in his sons leads to ruin. Duryodhana's pride leads him to destruction. But even virtuous acts carry weight. The Pandavas must endure exile and hardship, not because of wrongdoing, but because they are part of a greater balance cycle that must unfold. The epic reminds us that karma is not fate, it is choice, moment by moment. Our lives are shaped by what we choose, even in the smallest decisions, and through that, we grow. Then there is detachment, vairagya. Repeatedly, we see the heroes lose what they hold most dear: kingdoms, family, fame, even life itself. In the end, they walk into the Himalayas with nothing. This is not a tragedy. It is a teaching. The Mahabharata tells us nothing is permanent. What matters is not what you possess, but who you become. The great sage Vyasa, the author of the Mahabharata, writes not to glorify war or to idolize heroes. He writes to awaken understanding. His voice speaks through the pages like a grandfather sitting beside a fire, telling you gently, "Listen, child. Life is difficult, but there is a path. You must find it for yourself, and you must walk it with integrity." The Gita, nestled within the Mahabharata, has become one of the most influential spiritual texts in human history. It has guided saints, warriors, philosophers, and ordinary people alike. It has been interpreted in countless ways by Gandhi, by scholars, by yogis, by seekers across cultures. Its beauty lies not in rigid doctrine, but in its spaciousness. It honors the seeker. It respects the struggle. It meets each person where they are. In modern times, the Gita's teachings are often summarized as: perform your duty with sincerity, act without attachment, seek the eternal within, see divinity in all beings. But beyond these, the Mahabharata asks us to do something deeper, to reflect, to ask again and again, what is my dharma in this moment? Am I acting out of fear or love? Am I serving the ego or the soul? What can I let go of to find peace? Even now, as you rest, these questions are quietly alive in your breath, your thoughts, your dreams. Let them be seeds, not burdens. Let them guide you gently, like Krishna's chariot through the mists of doubt. The Mahabharata is not merely read, it is lived. In the boardroom, in the home, in the heart of every ethical dilemma, it waits. The field of Kurukshetra is wherever you stand, and you are Arjuna, always called to remember, to listen, to act with love. Let the wisdom of this epic wrap around you like a soft shawl. Let it soothe the restless mind and calm the troubled heart. You do not have to solve everything tonight. You only need to rest in the knowledge that you are part of a greater story, ancient, vast, and full of meaning. Sleep now. And if you dream, let it be of distant chariots, star-filled skies, and a quiet voice within saying, I am with you, always. As the last embers of the Kurukshetra war fade into memory, and the voices of warriors and sages drift like incense into the night, the Mahabharata remains not as a mere echo of the past, but as a living river flowing through the ages. This final chapter is a soft reflection on the enduring legacy of the Mahabharata, how, It has shaped civilizations, inspired countless generations, and continues to whisper wisdom into the ears of a world still seeking harmony. Let us begin with its sheer scope. The Mahabharata is the longest epic poem in world literature, over 200,000 individual verse lines. That's more than 7 times the length of the Iliad and Odyssey combined. Its stories and teachings are embedded in the very fabric of Indian identity. For over 2,000 years, it has been recited by temple priests, sung by wandering bards, retold by village elders, and studied by scholars across Asia and beyond. Its verses were memorized and passed down orally for centuries before being written down in Sanskrita, feat of human devotion and cultural continuity. The epic has influenced language, law, ethics, politics, and art. In many Indian languages, phrases and idioms from the Mahabharata are still part of daily conversation. Its characters are household names. Its moral dilemmas are the subject of lively debate across generations. But its reach is not limited to India. From the Himalayas to Sri Lanka, from Indonesia to Cambodia, from Thailand to Nepal, echoes of the Mahabharata appear in sculpture, dance, and literature. In Indonesia, the story of the Mahabharata is central to traditional shadow puppet theater known as wayang kulit. Here, the epic is not just a performance, it's a sacred rite. The characters move in silhouette, accompanied by gamelan music, as priests and puppeteers invoke gods and ancestors. In Cambodia's Angkor Wat, the walls are carved with scenes from the Mahabharata, the churning of the ocean, the battle scenes, and the divine interventions of Krishna. These are not just decorations, they are stone scripture, silent and eternal. In modern literature, authors from across the globe have drawn upon the Mahabharata for inspiration. Writers like Chitra Banerjee Divakaruni, Amish Tripathi, and Devdutt Patnaik have retold the epic through new lenses, while scholars continue to unearth its layered meanings. It has also reached cinema and television. In the 1980s, India's national broadcaster aired a televised Mahabharata that became one of the most watched shows in history. Families across the country would pause their lives on Sunday mornings to gather around the screen in reverent silence. More recently, digital platforms and animated series have reimagined the epic for new audiences, bringing it to children and curious minds all around the world. But what truly endures is not the format, is the message. The Mahabharata continues to resonate because it asks the questions that never go out of date. What is right? What is duty? Can power and morality coexist? What does it mean to live a good life? It does not offer easy answers. Instead, it invites contemplation. It asks each reader, listener, or viewer to think deeply, to examine their own heart. In schools and universities, the Mahabharata is studied not just as mythology, but as philosophy, psychology, and political theory. It has been compared to Shakespeare, to Plato, to Freud. Its relevance spans disciplines. In spiritual practice, the Bhagavad Gita's most luminous jewel-has become a guiding light for seekers of every path. Mahatma Gandhi kept a copy of the Gita by his bedside, calling it his spiritual dictionary. He turned to it for guidance during the darkest moments of India's struggle for independence. For him, the Gita was a manual for action without hatred, resistance without vengeance, and strength without violence. In the West, thinkers like Aldous Huxley, Carl Jung, and Albert Einstein expressed admiration for the Mahabharata's wisdom and psychological depth. It speaks to all who are torn between duty and desire, who wonder how to act in a world full of uncertainty, or how to find inner peace amidst chaos. Beyond books and temples, the Mahabharata lives in the hearts of people, in farmers who name their fields after Arjuna's bow, in parents who bless their children with the virtues of Bhima, Nakula, Sahadeva, and Draupadi, in artists who paint the moment Krishna reveals his divine form, and in you listening now, gently resting in the folds of a story that began long before you were born and will continue long after you are gone. The Mahabharata reminds us that we are part of something greater, that our choices matter, even when they are unseen, that life is not black and white, but full of shades gray, golden, crimson, and clear. It teaches humility, because even the greatest heroes fall, even the wisest are tested, even the gods themselves must watch as humans learn, stumble, and grow, and it teaches hope, because redemption is always possible, because love endures, because dharma, though difficult, is never without reward. In the end, the Pandavas renounce their kingdom. They walk north, toward the snow-capped Himalayas, seeking moksha liberation. One by one they fall, until only Yudhishthira remains. A dog follows him faithfully, and when he reaches heaven's gates, he is told to enter alone. But he refuses to abandon the dog. It is then revealed that the dog is Dharma himself, and Yudhishthira's compassion earns him a place in the eternal realm. What a perfect ending. Not one of conquest or glory, but one of kindness. The Mahabharata closes not with a crown or a kingdom, but with a lesson. The noblest path is not the one paved with victories, but the one walked with integrity, humility, and love. As we close this journey together, let us take a breath. You have traveled through ancient palaces, seen the rise and fall of dynasties, felt the anguish of exiled princes, and heard the song of the divine on a battlefield of doubt. And now you rest. Let your heart be light. Let the echoes of this epic become a lullaby for your soul. May the courage of Arjuna, the patience of Draupadi, the loyalty of Karna, and the wisdom of Krishna gently settle into your dreams. The Mahabharata is not just a story, it is a companion for life, a friend who walks beside you, silently reminding you that even when the road is unclear, your spirit is strong. Sleep now, in peace. The chariots have quieted, the torches are dim, and your story continues.